I just want to give a quick thanks to the Tier 5 channel members and patrons. Bob the Dragon, Datamagnet, Sergeant Puma, Cat Crab Lobster, and Duck Machine. Thank you very much for the support. It is much appreciated. Story number 1. Don't sucker punch someone unless you are certain they don't have a knife to your nads. Written by Admiral Marsupial 3. It is well known that only two ways of traversing across the vast expanses of space: warp engines and jump gates. Warp engines were in for system travel, mainly due to the maximum speed of warp engines only being about 1.5 times the speed of light. The other use was traveling to new systems with the equipment to build a jump gate. The multi-year time frames in the void between stars stopped the warp engines from being used for general exploration. The accepted method was to make a slow trip, build a gate as soon as you are there, jump back and let the scientists do the studying. After a military sweep of the system had been completed, just in case there were pirates or fugitives had run into the Great Black and ended up with the bad luck of being found by an exploration craft. This had happened exactly once in thousands of new system missions. But when you send through a massively expensive and advanced science fleet that is then captured and the jump gate destroyed, once is enough. Jump gates allow travel between stars in minutes or hours, making trade and commerce between systems and races easy. This also had the unintentional but rather appreciated side effect of making interstellar war almost impossible. Due to the massive costs of building, maintaining, and policing a jump gate array, no system had more than two. Also, due to the way jump gates operated, once you were approaching a system, you were completely at their mercy. They could just kick you out of the jump lane if they were being nice, or do it without inertia dampening assistance if they weren't. In which case, you simply turned into a smear on the front-facing wall of whatever room you were in. Although warships could operate for months on end independently, the amount of ship space and systems needed to maintain a large enough crew between worlds made any ship totally outclassed by purpose-built warcraft that encountered once they arrived at an enemy system. Which is why the humans never saw it coming. The Yagi had taken 4 of the 7 human systems before anyone knew what had happened. We knew of the hostilities between them and the humans. The humans' luck in settling systems rich in rare elements and minerals had heavily impacted the Yagi's economy and left the once rich race in almost poverty. The humans' offer to aid was seen as an insult, an offer made to weaker and inferior species. The Yagi had been sending ships to human systems for almost a year, disguised as merchants, scientists, and refugees. We now know these ships were filled with whatever weapons and troops they could get past the jump gate security. Once the agreed strike time arrived, they turned on the jump gate security forces, overwhelmed the minimal military forces, and forced the local policing authorities to surrender under the threat of glassing. A threat carried out on one system that thought that they were bluffing. And once the gates were taken, they had the system. The Yagi were now able to stop any reinforcements from arriving in system to liberate them. We knew the humans would be angry. We also knew that there was nothing that could be done. Every system had quickly updated their security protocols to avoid this happening again. The extra security procedures across the galaxy had made the Yagi very unpopular. But as they now once again held a monopoly of rare elements, we couldn't even enforce any sort of trade embargo, and any military action would be nigh on impossible now that the jump gate system's one weakness had been uncovered. So unless they had found a third method of space travel, what they had announced would be suicide. They had demanded return of all systems taken and compensation for all families who had lost loved ones, or else they would take them back by force and take all of the Yagi systems for themselves. All of their allies advised of how such an attack would be nothing but folly. They would never get a force strong enough through the gate without it being destroyed long before it finished its jump. And even if they could get their ships through the void in fighting condition, leaving the systems those ships were in unguarded would just result in them losing their remaining systems. I was on a human flagship when Yagi's response was received. I was there to beseech their military leaders not to retaliate in anger, to consider their options, and the chaos an unsinkable war would inflict on both their allies and their own people. The Yagi knew of the human anger, and their legendary temper once pushed too far. Their response was designed to exploit this and antagonize the humans. The refusal was both spiteful and mocking, saying that they deserved this for daring to disrupt their betters, showing them no abhorrent treatment of the captured human civilians in the captured systems. I knew right then that my mission was impossible. I saw the rage on the face of their fleet commander, the seething hatred on the face of every human there. I knew that they would now throw everything that they had at the Yagi in an anger-induced strike. Something the Yagi were counting on. After years of economic turmoil, coupled with the humans' financial strength and well-known martial prowess, they didn't stand a chance if the humans had regrouped, weighed out their options, and prepared a response. By agreeing them, they had guaranteed that they would send their forces now, where they would be picked off long before they would actually threaten any Yagi systems. A fear confirmed by the human commander's next order. Send a galaxy-wide communication to all military craft. We are now at war with the Yagi. They have slaughtered our civilians and, when offered a non-violent way to atone, responded with mockery and visions of torture of civilians who did survive. All strike ships are to attack Yagi targets immediately. I tried to plead with the human commander to rescind the order, to stay his hand, and not send his troops to slaughter in a reality-clouding rage. I hadn't even finished my pleas when I saw the readings from the Yagi territory. Dozens of warp engine signals from just outside Yagi systems. In the minutes it took those signals to reach the planet, the Yagi had managed to assemble their defense. They would take heavy losses, but would be able to repel a couple dozen ships heading their way. Or rather, they would have been able to repel them if they were ships. What they actually were was mile-long lumps of almost solid metal with warp engines attached. As 20-mile-long lumps of metal slammed into the Yagi planets at almost twice the speed of light, ending in hours the first interstellar war in living memory. And some of us live a really long time. I asked the question I didn't want to know the answer to. How did you know that the Yagi would attack you? We didn't. So, the biggest war of 10,000 years was avoided because you got lucky by having strike ships nearby the race that attacked you. No. But the only other way to explain such a quick counterattack would be if you had thousands of ships just lurking silently in the void outside of systems across the entire galaxy, just in case someone did something that hasn't happened for thousands of years. Yeah? What's your point? End of story. Story number 2. Queen, written by Red Shift Razor. Jeremy, I thought you said your species only lives a natural lifespans of 120 years naturally. Yes, we do tend to live that long, naturally. Why do you ask, Pinus? Well, because I've come across a member of your species who has lived far longer than even that. Why? Well, in any population, there's bound to be outliers, right? Even if you discount any biologically or cybernetically enhanced humans, there will certainly be those who live longer than average. That's basic maths, Prinus. Of course, I am aware of that, you don't. The human I am currently speaking of has seemingly lived for far longer than even that. Who exactly are you talking about, Pinus? I speak of the woman you humans call the Queen. Are you aware of her existence, Jeremy? Duh, everyone knows who the Queen is. But you aren't perplexed as to how she has evaded death for a millennia. My research indicates that she has lived for at least 10,000 years, starting out as the Queen of UK, an island which was consumed by Glub the Devourer before she defeated him in one-on-one combat. I suppose everyone wonders at one point how the Queen had lived for so long, Pinus. At some point you stop wondering and start accepting that she's always been there, and will most likely always be here. Jeremy, That notion is ridiculous. How can you just accept a supposedly immortal being as normal? In a way, it's kinda comforting, knowing that regardless of what happens, she will always be there, come black hole or supernova. I suppose that's true, given that she has survived Epsilon Eridani going supernova in her face and swam out of the Given that she survived Epsilon Eridani going supernova in her face and swam under the accretion disk of the resulting black hole. When you put it that way, I suppose it does sound crazy. Though, not nearly as crazy as Prince Philip coming back from the dead as the manifestation of the Lich King on the mortal plane. What? End of chapter. And that, my friends, concludes this video. I hope that you enjoyed.